something massive is transpiring right now in the spheres, around the planet, in the cosmos. I know you can feel it. I can feel it. Things are intensifying. Everything is accelerating. And right now, we are at the turning point, at the precipice, at the dawn, at the 11th hour. This great awakening has been sweeping through the planet. And this is why I call 2026 the threshold. It is the year where everything shifts and changes. And we, as the creators of our reality, have a choice point. Will we merge and go down the pathway of fear and the inorganic timeline, the synthetic timeline, where cybernetic, transhumanistic type of reality is going to be lived? Or will we follow the path of love, where we are walking as the embodiment of our true and authentic selves, where we are sharing our gifts, where we are fully expressing and living out our purpose and soul's mission in service to creating a more conscious and connected world? This presentation today is by far the most immersive presentation and masterclass that I've done. It combines over 10 years of research, of diving down many different rabbit holes of prophecies, of theories from ancient indigenous cultures to the Bible and to one of my favorite teachings, the gene keys, and how all of this is tied together to this moment right now where we stand it here at the threshold. So get ready, buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride. Okay, so we call this the Great Solar Flash and the Birth of Human 6.0. This is a 4-part masterclass where I am going to take you through a whole list of different prophecies and theories about this moment, this time, and the current state of the world, where everything hidden is being exposed right now. All shadows are coming to light so that we can choose our next path and our evolution. And then finally into the solution to how do we truly embody the gifts that we came here to share? How do we truly become the leader of our lives and step into a greater expression of our joy, prosperity, abundance, and freedom? Well, here we go. Let's dive in. So right now we are at, as we have said here from the start, we are at a turning point, and that we are moving through this decline where something is dying and something new is being born. And this is the spiral of life. This is the spiral of our personal and spiritual growth journey, that we are always going through these cycles of death and rebirth. But this is a massive one, because this is where thousands of year cycles are all converging into one, which we're going to get into in just a moment. And we are at the precipice where our consciousness, paired with the earth itself, is evolving. And through that, things are breaking apart, as we're going to see here in a bit. System structures, institutions, even ourselves, breaking down to ultimately build up to something new and to live out reality into a higher plane of existence. And so as we go through this transition period, it's very important to monitor where we are internally, because it's very easy to feel the chaos, to feel all of the confusion, the fear that is circulating around our collective mind and our consciousness. And so, as I mentioned, this is a convergence of cycles, that we are at the end of what the Vedics say the Kali Yuga, which is this thousands of year period specifically a 25,920 year period of this intensity and this darkness, where we are moving into the Satya Yuga, which is new light, where the Garden of Eden, the new earth, is being born. And the Mayans also spoke to this in the sense of 2012. If you were following this back in 2012, you'll remember there was a huge panic around that the world is going to end, the Mayan calendar is ending. It was just signifying that it was end of one era and the beginning of another. And that's when things started to really speed up. And I'm going to go over these 3 marker points in a bit, covering 1987, 2012, and ultimately 2027, which is where we are beginning to see how all of this change is actually going to manifest. And so when we reach these turning points, everything that has been known as whatever, these old structures that have been living out their time on planet Earth, they are all going to dissolve. And what is born in its place is obviously up to us. So let's get into the prophecies. I'm going to speak to a few of them, although there is a lot more, really all speaking the same language, that we are at a transition point and that something new is emerging through us. So first we cover the Hopi prophecy. So the Hopi people of North America have spoken about a coming period of purification that humanity must pass through before the birth of a new world. And we are seeing that right now. Look at all of the natural disasters. Look at our own internal world and all of the purging that is happening, especially for those of us that are here as change makers, leaders, guides, facilitators, light workers. We are going through this inner purification process in order for something new to come into its place. And so this quote from the Hopis that really inspired me to put this here says, when the earth is sick and the animals are disappearing, a new tribe of people shall come onto earth from many colors, classes, and creeds. They will be called the Rainbow Warriors, and they will set things right again. And this is why perhaps even right now you feel this change within you, that you feel this desire to be a steward of the earth, to create communities, to live out your purpose, to be of service in any way. It is all of this is being born within us, but we must go through this cleansing, purification, and this letting go process in order for all of that to come to life. And that this prophecy emphasizes that humanity must choose whether to continue down a path of imbalance or move toward a new relationship with nature and spirit. And from one of my favorite books by Ken Carey, Return of the Bird Tribes, he says, the world you have known is passing away. A new world is being born through those who awaken to the greater reality. A time is coming when humanity will awaken from the dream of separation and remember its unity with all of life. And that's essentially what is happening through this ascension process, is that we are remembering who we are, because we have been asleep at the wheel for so many years, for centuries, for millennia. And now, of course, as we move into these higher frequencies, which we're going to get into in a bit, we are starting to wake up and to remember who we are, our gifts, our supernatural powers that are all coming online. Then we have the Toltecs. If you're familiar with Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements, he wrote many other books. One of my favorite books, Beyond Fear, he speaks to this idea of the sixth sun. There's also a documentary, which I will link below this video, called The Sixth Sun, meaning that the sun, also as a living entity like the earth, is going through its own transformational process. It's right now we are on the fifth sun, and you know, we can see if you follow any of this, the enhanced solar activity that is hitting the planet right now. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But through this solar activity, it is changing us as well, our cellular structure, even our DNA. And there is a process, a transformational process that the sun is going through, and so that a new sun is being born. And in this is correlated with this new golden age, which is with greater awareness, harmony with nature, and a deeper understanding of the spiritual nature of reality. And so the Toltecs have been talking about this for a very long time, this time that we find ourselves in this very moment. Then, of course, we have the Bible. Okay, in the Bible, I know there's a lot of debate around the Bible. A lot of times things are taken very literally. And of course, there is these beautiful codes and metaphors woven into this text. But these excerpts that I have here very much speak to this ominous and mysterious idea that something is changing. In Matthew 24:29 it says, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven. In Revelation 6:12, the sun has become black as a sackcloth, and the moon became like blood. Also in Revelation, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. So it's speaking that everything is going dark and something new is being born in its place. And then, of course, in Matthew 24:30, and then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming from the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. That the second coming of Christ, and it's not necessarily a man in the sky like we've been told to believe in all religions, especially in mainstream Christianity and Catholicism, that there is a God outside of us, but the presence and power of God is within us, as well as the Christ mind. And Christ consciousness, the second coming of Christ, is the awakening of Christ consciousness within our own hearts and within ourselves. So as the old world dies, that is what is coming to be known and to be felt, to be experienced by those of us that are actively doing this inner work to transform our darkness into light, heal our wounds, our traumas, and all of that, which we'll speak to in a bit. And then we have the Great Solar Flash, which is, of course, what this presentation is named from, is this event, this potential event where lots of people have spoken about this, that there would be this mass coronal ejection that would happen from the sun, releasing this enormous burst of energy, which essentially contains these intense waves of photonic light and electromagnetic radiation that directly interface with our DNA, acting as a cellular upgrade. And so because the sun interacts with us on this level, that we are electrical beings. Our nervous system is electric, our entire body, everything is running on electricity, cosmic electricity. And so the sun impacts us as does the earth, and the Schumann resonance of the earth also has been changing, because the sun, the earth, and us are all one unified field that are mirroring and reflecting back what is happening as it pertains to this great change and this great awakening. And so this is a biofeedback field that is transpiring between all of us. And therefore, the question rises, will we experience a great solar flash in which the emission of the sun's energy basically changes everything? And I have some theories on that and how that might actually transpire. And it's all connected to the teachings of the gene keys, which I'm going to get into later in this presentation. But if this were to happen, of course, it may change physical reality in the sense of communication grids going down, all different of the electric grid on Earth, and that we too would go through some level of an upgrade. And a part of this prophecy as well is that there would then be these 3 days of darkness, which is also spoken about in the Bible, which would follow this solar flash, where the world would fall into silence, into a state of awe. And so there's a lot to explore here, and we're going to get into that a little bit more. But I just wanted to give you a framework in part one of kind of these different prophecies that has been talked about for a very, very long time. Now we get into part two, which is speaking to the crossroads. Where are we right now? We have basically the ability to choose one of two paths. that we choose the path of fear or we choose the path of love, to simplify this. And we'll get into how we begin to choose these paths in just a bit. First of all, we need to understand that right now, what's happening in the world, yes, we see physical war, we see violence, but this is a mirror of what's actually happening on a greater cosmic level. There is a war on consciousness, and we can call it the elite, we can call it we can call it the Illuminati, we can call it any of these things. But there is inevitably a war happening on our consciousness, and that this is the true World War III. And this is not to create fear, but to illuminate what's actually happening in the unseen realms, the realms that we can't perceive with our two eyes, but with our higher mind, our higher self. And we can feel this viscerally within our nervous systems. The world, this war is creating is one of constant bombardment and stimulation, controlling information, attention, emotional states, and perception, all designed to keep you within a certain frequency and a bandwidth of fear, shame, division, separation, confusion, lack, scarcity, and so on. Ultimately, to prevent you from realizing and remember who you truly are. Now, we are awakening from this dream and from this matrix. And in order to break free from the matrix, we need to see it for what it is. And for centuries, this Earth grid has been controlled. And we can go deep into the cosmology, into extraterrestrial life. We can go into many different things here, but I'm going to keep it quite simple and practical. Maybe we'll touch on a few, but essentially, there has been these control system structures and institutions by negative orientated beings that have created a matrix or an energetic overlay. And this is a controlled simulation of false projections and narratives that shape humanity and how we perceive reality. Everything within its grid is inverted and distorted to separate humanity from the original Earth blueprint and their divine nature. So there is the Terra blueprint of Earth, which is essentially the Garden of Eden, which is the Earth in its most pristine, radiant, vibrant condition. And with this overlay, we are only seeing certain bits of information that we are interfaced with. And so the matrix is this whole system, a false light system, and this projection that keeps us locked into these lower states. And these distortions are reinforced through emotional polarization, through fear and division, through manipulation of information, as I shared before, through constant distraction and overstimulation, as well as artificial narratives that guide humanity toward fear-based timelines. And so when our nervous system is stuck in survival mode, when we are in this place of victimization, that everything is happening to us, it's very difficult to rise above the sleep that we've been in, this lull that we've been in. And this is why coming back within ourselves, doing this inner work, which we're going to speak to in a bit, is the most important thing that we can do to step into the full radiance of our soul expression. And so right now, these control mechanisms from this matrix grid is getting stronger and stronger, but we are not victims of it. And we chose this. We inherently chose to be here at this moment, at this time as souls. And I want to acknowledge that we are not victims of this, that we are playing this elaborate game and this video game where we have our higher self, our oversouls that are essentially all a part of co-creating this experience of duality and polarity for us to wake up. And that's the part of the game for us to reclaim our power. And so as we go through this great awakening process, which we are in the midst of, that hidden information is now surfacing, right? What has been in secret is now being exposed in a greater way. And people are beginning to question, is this real or has this been a lie? Because most of our history that has been all controlled. And we realize that we have never really been told the truth about who we are as these cosmic divine beings, and that we are just merely these humans. but we are beginning to recognize that we are player one. And we're moving from non-player NPC mode into that player one, where we are the creator, the director, the producer, the script writer of our reality. And we are in a co-creation with the divine, with the God source that is within us, that we are one with that source and co-creating this reality. And so as we begin to wake up from this dream, from this movie, from this game, and realize what it is that we are actually doing here on earth, everything begins to change. Everything begins to transform. And this all begins with us doing this shadow work, transforming our own inner darkness into light. And that true awakening requires the courage to face our shadows and bring awareness to the unconscious victim patterns, trauma, and core wounds that shape how we move and see the world. And this is a very, very big part of merging the brilliant human that we are, the full spectrum of our humanness, with our divine light, and bringing that together in this integrated way where we are living into and becoming the embodiment of our wholeness, of our truth, of the love of who we are, which is what we are at the core, is this unconditional love, and reconnecting to our core essence as conscious creators of our reality. And this all happens when we bring light to the rejected, disowned, abandoned, and deemed unlovable and unworthy parts of ourselves, where we integrate that back into the whole through forgiveness, through compassion, through grace. And as we shine a light on the darkness, those fears that we once had no longer hunt us. We become free from it all. And this is the true work. And when we do this work and we go through this transformational process, we become unstoppable. And we are living into our true light. Now, through all of this, as I mentioned before, there's essentially these two very distinct pathways. There's the trajectory of deeper technological integration, artificial intelligence, and transhumanism, which is essentially what the Matrix wants to steer you into. And then, of course, you have the second trajectory, which is the expansion of human consciousness, of reconnecting with the earth, reconnecting with nature, being at one with nature, and becoming a steward of this earth as a living, breathing system of intelligence, that we are in co-creation in this co-creative dance. And we are living in communities. You know, my big vision that I've been stewarding and allowing to emerge is creating a livable in-person community, as well as these different hubs around the world of these healing sanctuaries, because that is going to be the true and the real currency of this new paradigm, is that we're all working together in collaboration, that we're no longer separate from each other, but coming together to share our gifts and to be living into our individual soul's essence. And this is such a pivotal moment in history in our time. And this year specifically is where we get to truly choose. Will we go down in fear, or will we continue to expand into love? Okay, so how is all of this transformation going to take place? How is this all going to manifest? Well, as we speak into and live into the law of hermetics, specifically the law of correspondence, as within, so without. Everything begins within us. That everything in our external reality is simply just a projection of our innermost state of being and our consciousness. And so it all begins within. And this leads us into, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, probably my favorite and most transformational system for self-discovery and awakening is the gene keys. And so I want to start there and really speak into the gene keys and why they matter and how it's all tied into this transformation. I've been a student and guide of these teachings for the past 10 years. They have changed my life on so many levels. And I'm very passionate about sharing these teachings because I perceive them to be these advanced wisdom teachings that have come to steward us in this awakening process right now. And so the keys are founded on this premise that every person, including you, has this unique energetic blueprint and set of innate gifts encoded within their DNA. And that the gene keys is a powerful system and a set of wisdom teachings that combines the 64 human archetypes of the Chinese I Ching and your personal astrological makeup, providing you a roadmap of your soul to uncover the purpose you are here to fulfill, the core challenges that catalyze your growth, the emotional patterns and shadows that shape your reality and your relationships, the genius you are here to share in the world, and the key to unlocking true prosperity, and so much more. Essentially, as we go within and we transform these frequency bands that are already within us because they're a part of our archetypical lived human experience, when we transform those, we step into the second frequency band, which is our gift. And then, of course, in the third frequency band, the city, that is the highest blossoming, flowering potential of our DNA being manifest into this enlightened sort of state. But really, the intention and of these teachings is to work with the art of contemplation, reading through and contemplating how these specific archetypes in our personal profile are connected to how we are experiencing our reality, and ultimately live into our true gifts that we came here to share and express. But that is just a very small segment on what the gene keys are. If you want to explore that deeper, definitely join the Mastery Collective. That's where we go deep with the gene keys, and I have a 7-part series that is all included within there, and you can go through that series and really begin to understand how these teachings in this system can truly impact your life in a very positive and transformational way. So why are we talking about the gene keys? Well, it's all of this presentation is connected to the 55th gene key. The 55th gene key is the shadow of victimization. Victimization of being victims of our minds, of our emotions, of our reality, of our experience, of situations, of circumstances, believing that life is happening to us, rather than taking the stance of the Creator is that life is happening through us. And as we emerge from victimization, we move into freedom. And out of all the 64 gene keys, this is the only gene key that has the same gift and city frequency of freedom. And every other gene key revolves around this gene key. Every shadow of every other gene key revolves around victimization, as well as the gifts revolve around freedom. And yes, on a very surface level, speaking to freedom as the things we want to do what we want, when we want, and all of that. That's a very surface. I'm talking about deep, personal, inner freedom, that we are free from the cages, from the boxes of our mind, where we are free from being in this reactionary state, where we are in this space of responsiveness, that we are claiming ourselves as the power, the source of our reality, the supply, and that we get to ultimately choose. And in that choice is freedom, is liberation. And in that, we merge with something greater that is beyond ourselves in the realization of who we are. And so the reason I reveal all of this is because this is the master key of the gene keys, and it's revealing that there's a deeper mutation that is happening specifically in the solar plexus. Why does this matter? What is the solar plexus? The solar plexus is our internal sun. Okay, so keep that in mind for a moment. And that this gene key, it speaks to this notion that humanity is undergoing a mutation in the solar plexus, which is the emotional center of the human body, and that we have operated in a very low frequency band and expression of the solar plexus, being in reactivity and really being in our ego sense of power rather than in our true power. And so as this mutation takes place, and I'm going to read a few passages from the gene keys themselves, but as this mutation takes place, we become more aware and sensitive. So it's been transpiring, but we are reaching a climax of this mutation process. And that the nervous system is evolving to handle deeper levels of consciousness. And we are moving from emotional victimhood into emotional freedom. And so the keys speak to this directly with some of the passages in here and speaking to this transformation that's taking place. It says, much of the 55th gene key transmission concerns the future of our species as it moves through the great change, and as such is a profoundly prophetic piece of writing. That the sixth human race is being triggered through the 55th gene key and its mutation within the solar plexus, the seat of human emotion. The Trivian race, which is the sixth human race, heralds the reawakening of this center and will allow human beings to experience once again the universal quantum field connecting all beings. And that right now, humanity and our whole evolutionary, our planetary consciousness now stands at the greatest threshold to date. That is just a few of the many pages that is spoken about here of the mutation that is underway right now. We're going to go a few steps deeper. So as I mentioned, we are moving from the fifth and into the birth of the sixth human race, correlated with the sixth sun, as the Toltecs described it. So we have these different races that have populated this planet. The first root race is the Polarian race. This is an early, highly spiritual stage of humanity existing in subtle, non-physical form. So basically, it's like living into your light being, right? It's very light. It's not as dense as this 3D full human body experience, but it's a light form. The second is the root race, which is the Hyperborean race, a more developed spiritual humanity connected to higher planes of consciousness. From there was born the Lemurian race, the emergence of physical human beings and the beginning of fully embodied on Earth. Though we're fully embodied in our bodies, rooted in this density. And then, of course, we have the fourth root race, which is the Atlantean, a highly advanced civilization whose consciousness was centered in the emotional body before its eventual collapse. Now, this is important because we haven't been told the truth as it pertains to our history, that there has been these other races here and there's been these resets. Now, of course, over the past several years, there's been many people that have hinted at these resets, Graham Hancock being one of them. Of course, other modern day spiritual teachers speaking to this, and many other people that are coming to light to share there was something greater and more advanced that was living here. I mean, we could see it in the proof of the pyramids and everything else, right? And it makes you question what was here. Look at all of the cities in America, the buildings, right? There's so many rabbit holes you can go down, but something was living here before there was an eventual reset. And what a lot of people share is that the Atlanteans had essentially taken themselves out. They became so technologically advanced that they ended up collapsing on themselves. Then, of course, brings us to this sort of modern day of the Aryan race, which is where we are right now. And this is very similar in the sense that we are advancing very quickly technologically. And this is creating this crossroads where we find ourselves at, because we can easily go down the same road as the Atlanteans did and perhaps destroy ourselves. Or we can move into the higher technology, which is the organic intelligence that lives within us. And this is really where we're designed to live from this greater level of our own intelligence And when we begin to tap into that, everything begins to change because we realize that we are telepathic. We are telekinetic. We can perform all of these incredible things. We are clairaudient. We are clairvoyant. We are claircognizant. That there is this greater guidance system that exists within us. And that will lead us into eventually moving into free energy and technology and the higher manifestation of what technology can do for us, but this cosmic universal technology. And this is what is approaching as we move into the sixth race, the Trivian race. And so basically, this is associated with the awakening of the emotional and heart center. This is where the divine masculine and feminine within us are merging together to create this balance, this unity. And ultimately, we begin to experience this deep interconnectedness with all of life. And so this is linked to the mutation of the solar plexus. As the solar plexus goes through this mutation, something new is born. And it speaks to this implosion and explosion of light energy within us. And how that would then basically create this new perceived reality. Now, there's more questions to this, which I'm going to answer in a little bit, because I'm sure there's some things that you're thinking to yourself, how this is going to transpire, when it's going to transpire, all of that. Let's get into this. So also in the 55th gene key, it speaks to these three marker points, 1987, 2012, and 2027. 1987, that is the year I was born, is the harmonic convergence marked by the beginning of a planetary awakening cycle and the opening of a new evolutionary phase of humanity. Then we have 2012, which is the melodic resonance. This is the end of the Mayan calendar, a very significant date, December 21st, 2012. And that this is essentially the birth of a new era and the alignment of humanity within a deeper collective awareness. And now we have 2027, which we are rapidly approaching. Perhaps we're already in it if you're watching this video next year. But regardless, we are coming close to a massive shift and change. So let me read you just a few lines here from 2027 as it's stated in the gene keys. And perhaps what you want to do is just close down your eyes to really receive these words and soak them in, because what you're about to hear is pretty profound and it's very much connected to everything that we've been sharing here. Many different mystics and ancient calendar systems have long predicted the great turning point of human evolution coming to a climax in this current age. The human design system, one of the great systems that laid the foundation for this work on the 64 gene keys, uses the 64 codes of the ancient I Ching as a kind of genetic clock to measure the timing of potential future mutations in human DNA. As a genetic clock, it predicts that a huge genetic mutation will sweep through the solar plexus system of humanity beginning in the year 2027. As such, the year 2027 is a difficult year to put into words. The coming consciousness shift will be an implosion of extremely high frequency Siddhic consciousness. Certainly after this date, nothing will ever be the same again. Beginning in the year 2027, our planet will begin a gradual process of falling silent into a state of awe. Between 2012 and 2027, a core awakening fractal of humanity will lay the foundations of a new world that will, over many generations, reshape this planet from the inside out. Old systems will crumble as the new order arises unscathed from their midst. This time will mark the phase of recreating Eden, which never left this planet but remained as an energetic blueprint. Harmony and melody will be synthesized here into divine universal rhythm. For the first time, humanity will hear and be the virtuoso soloist in the great symphony of the spheres. At a certain point in future beyond 2027, we will finally discover the wonder of simply being. There really will be nothing left to do on Earth but enjoy the garden, something our species has not yet managed to do. Wow. This passage right here, out of this whole book, might be some of the most profound words that I've ever heard. And when we hear that, the world will fall into a state of awe. This signifies that something big is coming. And that right now, for those of us that are on this path of awakening, on this path of self-mastery, that we are going to be the first wave that is going to fully experience this profound historical transformation. And so, like I said earlier, buckle up. Things are about to speed up here. And so we get to the big question of the day, the trigger point. So if this great solar flash is going to happen, how is it going to happen? Well, my theory is that based on our level of consciousness, that we will essentially individually, wherever we are at, because we are always creating our own version of reality, and there are infinite realities, there are infinite versions of Earth, that depending upon that version that we are tuned into, and we are actively doing the inner work and looking within ourselves, that this mutation will transpire, and we will then be essentially transformed into a greater expression of our humanity. I don't believe that we're just naturally going to disappear, but our version of Earth and what we experience will change. And as a result, it will create perhaps a perceived event where a solar flash will happen, and that we will, whoever, all of us that are on this path will essentially experience this new timeline, while still being here as a looking glass. One of my favorite channelers speaks to, you can look into different versions of the Earth as like looking through a piece of glass, that you know that there's these things happening, but you're at this neutral state where you're not attached into the sense of reactivity and defensiveness, but you're at this place where you are living from this new state of consciousness while helping others to wake up. As Ram Dass said, we are all here to walk each other home. So regardless of whether this is an external event that happens to some of us, or it's just this implosion, this internal event, as the Gene Key speaks to, something is taking place right now. And so we are in the midst of it, and it's a very, very exciting time to be alive and to be walking into this unknown place. But I'm very optimistic. I'm very excited. And the more that we can keep our frequency high at this time, because we are being bombarded with so much, it's very, very important to be in our center. And this is why I have our last and final part, which is embodying the shift. What does this mean? It means to take time, to slow down, to come within, to be in stillness, to pause, most importantly, to breathe. That your breath is a transformational tool and a gateway to your liberation. That through the shifting of our electrical system, our nervous system, moving from this place of fight or flight, from this place of constant activation into a parasympathetic state, we slow down. What happens when we slow down? We begin to perceive reality differently. We become more present. We become more open. We become more allowing, all yin states of being. And we become connected and reconnected to our soul and to our intuition. We can hear the subtle voice within us speaking, giving us guidance and leading us to exactly where we need to be in every single moment. And when we are living from that place, life becomes a lot more fun. We're not in constant reaction, worry, doubt, fear, but we're in this place of expansion, that we can see the bigger picture taking place. And it all begins with breath, as the breath is the missing link in conscious reality creation and manifestation. If you want to create a new perceived reality, in which you are living into your dreams, in which you are the embodiment of your potential, then work with your breath. Your breath is that doorway into a new paradigm. And so what I want to do right now is I want to pause. Now, if you're driving, listening to this, don't do it there. Wait till you get home. But if you're in a safe, cozy space, if you want to grab a pair of headphones, I recommend it. Put them on, sit down, spine straight, or lay down on your back. We're going to go into a 12 to 15 minute breathwork experience. And in this breathwork experience, you're invited to fully let go and to cleanse and purify and release all of the density, the tightness, the constriction, the resistance that lies within you, the limitation, the lack, the fear, and move into a higher state of being, and allowing you to envision and see with your higher mind, your third eye, the potential for your life and how you are here to be a part of this great shift right now. And you may experience some emotions, you may experience some visuals, you may experience all number of things. This is a very safe and supportive practice. Now, if you're pregnant, I highly recommend skipping the breath holds. But other than that, it's a 4-4 breath count. You'll hear the sounds, the breath sounds, my voice. All you're doing is breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the mouth, and you're following the guidance and the instruction. And through that, may you experience the shift, because it's one thing to have these conversations and talk about these things. It's another to be in the feeling state of it. And after we're done there, I'm going to come back and I'm going to share some very exciting opportunities for you to carry this work forward and for you to move along this powerful ascension process and journey and into your true self. So come back with me after and we will wrap things up. We are living in both exhilarating and turbulent times. Consciousness is accelerating, identities are dissolving, and systems are shaking. You can feel it in your body. You can feel it in your life. You can feel it in the air tonight. An old paradigm is coming to a close, and something new is being born. The structures built on fear, control, and separation are crumbling, and an entirely new reality, one centered on love, abundance, and unity, is rising from the ashes. But for this reality to take root, we must shift our internal state from contraction to expansion, from fear to freedom, from shadow to light. Because all external transformation begins with internal regulation. The world does not change because we fight harder. It changes because we become the embodiment of what we wish to see. And it all begins with the living prayer, technology, and power of your breath. Together, taking a deep inhale all the way up. Hold it at the top. And exhale all the way out. And we begin creating this higher dimension of reality in 3, 2, 1. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Breathing fully, taking that air, that oxygen down into the roots, filling yourself up with this good prana, this positive energy. Allowing each inhale and each exhale cleanse and purify your body, your mind, your heart, your spirit, clearing away all density, all fog, all contraction, tightness, and tension. Surrendering all that you've been carrying that is built and created in limitation, all fear, doubt, lack, and worry. Allowing your true self to emerge from the depths, to rise all the way up to the top. Every breath activating and awakening your higher potential. I can feel it coming in the air. Oh Lord, and I've been waiting for this moment all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it. That's it now. Circulating your intentions, your prayers, your peace, your joy, your abundance, your aliveness, your pleasure, your power, your passion, your freedom through every cell, allowing it to grow, to amplify, to expand into the universal field. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, and I've been waiting for this moment all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, can you feel it coming in the air tonight? Oh Lord, oh Lord. Giving it all up to the Most High, giving thanks to the one infinite creator, receiving your greatest gifts, blessings, and good fortune, and now in every moment. And together in 3, 2, 1, taking a deep breath in. Hold that breath, sustain it at the top. Squeezing in the root, the navel, all the way up. As you envision this light, the light of the divine shining down through your crown. Steady and slow, exhaling it, letting it back out. Breathing it all the way back up. And exhale. Fully out. Pausing at the bottom. Together, we breathe back in, holding once more at the top. And exhale it all the way out. Receiving all that you need in this present moment. Feel call, returning back to your natural breath, to your natural rhythm. Breathing in, breathing out. Sending you positive energy on the journey ahead. Peace. Okay, welcome back from that session, that experience, and just being here, feeling into what transpired for you, feeling that shift in your cells, in your body, tapping into the deeper intelligence, the inner wisdom that lies within. And for those of you that are really truly on this path and wanting to really expand, grow, heal, thrive, then I'm going to share a really incredible opportunity for you right now. So, inside of the Mastery Collective, over the coming months and year, I'm going to be guiding all of our students in there, all of our participants through what I call and what the Gene Keys calls the Golden Path. This is a guided exploration through the three core sequences of the Gene Keys: the activation, the Venus, and the Pearl, which I'm going to describe here and break them into parts in a moment. And this is to activate essentially your dormant DNA and the intelligence that lies within. We're going to be doing, it's essentially a very powerful and glorified study group where we're going to be taking our own personal Gene Keys profiles and going through these different spheres. And as we go through this journey of these different spheres, we are waking up from the inside out. So I'm going to be doing live teachings every month, not just teachings with the specific sphere, but I'm also going to be doing coaching sessions for people to transform their shadows that are contained within that specific gene key into their gifts. I'm also going to be doing deeper, longer breathwork activations. And this is where you're going to be able to really uncover and embody your higher purpose, transform the wounds that have shaped your experience of love, and align your life with the frequency of true prosperity. So, phase one, we are going to be going into what we call pathway to purpose, which is the activation sequence. And this is all for you to embody your higher purpose and your creative genius. So, in month one, we start here in the life's work sphere. Now, of course, if you're watching this video a year from now, just know that you can come in at any point and be a part of this. You don't have to start just from the beginning. You can come in at any point of these journeys. So we have our life's work, which is the unique gift you are here to express in the world. It reflects the energy you naturally radiate through your actions, creativity, and contributions. So this is month one. We're going to be exploring your life's work and your specific gene key and line number as it pertains to your life's work in this beautiful group format. In between those months, where each month we have a new sphere, that you're going to be using the Gene Keys book, and you're going to be using the audio contemplations from Richard Rudd, which are inside of the community themselves, for you to go deep into your specific key and how that plays out in your life and your relationships and so forth. Then we'll move into the evolution, which is your single greatest challenge. From there into your radiance, which is the source of your vitality, well-being, and inner harmony. And then ultimately into your purpose, which is the foundation of your being. This is all within phase one, pathway to purpose. Right here is 4 months. We move into phase two, pathway to love, a journey through the Venus sequence. And this is to really bring our relationships into consideration as beautiful mirrors and reflections and catalysts for our greater blossoming and awakening. And so we'll begin once again as a crossover into the purpose, but the purpose of our relationships. This is what we will be exploring there. Then into our attraction field, which is how we essentially magnetize people into our lives, either from the shadow and in very karmic ways, or from a higher frequency. This is a very powerful sphere of how we manifest in the world. Then we have our IQ, which governs our mind and our mental patterns, our EQ, which governs our emotions and our emotional patterns, as well as our SQ, which is our heart, the intelligence contained within our deeper heart. And then we have our core, which is significant of our core wound. That we all have a very specific core wound that's been encoded within us because we chose this. Essentially, the gene keys being a map of our soul, we chose this wound to play out and for us to eventually transmute and integrate. And when we transmute and integrate that core wound, we move into pathway to prosperity and our vocation, which becomes essentially the medicine that we're here to share with the world. And then, of course, we have our culture, which is essentially our soul fractal, our soul tribe, and the people we're meant to serve. Our brand, which is our authentic expression, how we communicate. And then our pearl, which basically all is about how natural prosperity arises within us. And so all of these three sequences, pathway to purpose, pathway to love, pathway to prosperity, are all a part of the Golden Path program. And over the years, I've guided hundreds of people through these different pathways. And here are just a few people that have gone through these experiences with me and how it has transformed their life. We'll start here with Jim.
I feel bigger. I feel better. I feel more confident. I am more understanding of others. I am more forgiving of others, which this has just set the stage to really go deep, really take a look at me. So I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful for all of the posts that you guys have put up because it's helped me understand me better.
I feel like my entire life makes sense. Like I've spent, so much, all of my life, as early as I can remember, 3, 4, 5 years old, having certain thoughts or callings or like obsession with the word grace since I was a small child, and just all these things, like knowing I was here to do something big and yada yada. And the second I read my GP's profile, bro, my whole life made sense. It was I've done astrology, I've done, all these things, and like they helped a little bit and they were resonant, but like this truly, I know I've been given the key, like pun intended. Like I do. I feel so happy. I feel so grateful. And I'm just like, yep, this is it. Like it's in my DNA. I feel like every answer to everything I ever need in the whole universe is in this book and in these teachings. And so just wanted to like share that holistically is how I feel.
And lastly, we have Al.
I'd just be like, how is this possible? How is it possible to have a book full of stuff with someone that has written kind of, like, for me, it's very difficult for my mind to actually process, because there is so much that has resonated literally each week where I've gone, it's completely reaffirmed my belief in this kind of soul searching, this kind of wisdom. It's wisdom, isn't it? It's wisdom. And I'm just really thankful for the course and your insights and to kind of meet everyone else on the course. And it's kind of made me believe in life again. I think at the beginning I said I felt stuck, and I don't feel stuck anymore. So.
Beautiful. So those are just a few people. I mean, there's been hundreds that I've stewarded through this system, and all of them having very profound and powerful experiences. And so right now, again, being at the precipice, at the crossroads, it's so important that we're doing this work. And as we do that, we are essentially raising our frequency, our vibration, and ultimately our consciousness to begin to experience in life the way we were designed. And so when you enroll in the Golden Path, and especially within the Mastery Collective, where all of this is hosted, that you are essentially getting these monthly Gene Keys activations that we're going to be doing as a group, these monthly group coaching and integration calls, access to all my programs, all of my courses that I've put out over the years, as well as workshops. Then you're going to get these quarterly trainings and workshops with me or a guest teacher, exclusive breathwork and meditations library, as well as priority access to my events and my retreats. All of this valued at over $5,500. I was doing each of those pathways at $497 for each person in that group. And so multiply that plus this value, it's really a lot. And it's honestly, this is not surface level personal development work. This is for people that are really ready to lead from within and truly become the embodiment and flowering of their potential that exists within their DNA. So if that is you, this is for you. And the best part about this, I've never done this before, and this is this is an incredible value. So right now you can step onto the golden path and become a part of this program for one payment of $444. That is a whole year's access to this community, or for $44 a month. That is $1.46 a day if you want to break it down for you to do this deep work. Now, again, I haven't offered it at this price before, and I don't know if I ever will again, but right now you can get in as a founding member within the Mastery Collective and do this with me: live teachings, breathwork, coaching, and of course, a community doing it together and walking this path, which is everything. We're not meant to do things alone. We are always meant to live, to work, to collaborate, to do this deep work in tribe with each other. And this is how we grow stronger. This is how we truly rise. And so if you want to be a part of this, again, the beautiful thing is you step in a couple months down the line, you're like, hey, this isn't for me, whatever. No hard feelings. You can cancel anytime. So you're not locked into anything. But I can promise you, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to love it, and that I'm very excited to be walking this path with all of you. So this will start on April 11th inside the community, but this price will be going up. So make sure you get in now if you're watching this. And if you're watching this in the future, that's okay. You can still come and join us inside the Mastery Collective, even if it's 6 months from now. We're going to be walking this path together, and you can just plug and play wherever you are. So I'm very excited. It's going to be an incredible experience to be walking with all of you and to be here together, doing this really important work for this planet, for us humans. And may we all rise into who we are, who we truly are as these divine beings having this human experience. So with that being said, this concludes my presentation, and I very much look forward to be seeing you inside the Mastery Collective and serving you on this beautiful and to be serving you in this beautiful way. Sending you all the love and positive energy. We'll speak soon. Peace.